In 1882, Thomas Edison lit up an area of New York through the Pearl Street station. This was achieved through months of turmoil and labor. But how did we evolve into a society that depends on electricity for everything? One little-known person is Samuel Insull, Edison's apprentice that left him in 1892 for Chicago. When Samuel Insull first came to Chicago, he had already made a name for himself through Edison and General Electric. Unfortunately, he was scoffed at because the company he left for, Chicago Edison, was acutely undercapitalized and profits were scant. At the end of his farewell dinner, Insull predicted that one day Chicago Edison would exceed the worth of General Electric, which caused quite a bit of amusement. What most people did not realize was that Insull had huge dreams. While Edison's original notion was to deliver electricity to inner cities, Insull wanted to provide electricity for the entire population, including rural areas, which most companies did not think of. But between Insull and his goal was a huge obstacle. It had taken Edison months and a fortune to provide a single area with electricity, and having 250 lamps installed cost $7,500, more than 10 times of what many factory workers made in a year. So how was Insull to make electricity affordable and an everyday resource? His idea was to start with DC, or direct current, which is used in households for smaller lights, convert it to AC, or alternating current, which is very cheap to transport, then convert it back to DC for in-home use. With this idea, he began supplying Chicago and its suburbs with electricity. Insull had heard that Sir Charles Parsons, a British engineer, had invented a smooth rotary turbine for racing boats. Insull pressed Charles Coffin, the president of GE, for a 5,000 kilowatt generator, and finally received one under the condition that he took the risk of installing it and starting it up. When he was in England one Christmas, he saw shop lights on when the shops were closed. He traced this phenomena to Arthur Wright's. Wright had invented a demand meter that measured total consumption and levels of demand of electricity during the day. Using this, he created graphs for demand at different periods of time. Within 3 years, all of Insull's plants were producing their maximum output. In October 1903, the world's largest turbine was started up at the new Fisk Street station, but was shut down immediately because it was shaking violently. Everyone was asked to step behind the shelter, but Fred Sargent, the engineer, noticed Insull still standing next to him. He asked Insull repeatedly to step behind the shelter with the others, but he answered, "If it blows up, I'll blow up with it anyway." In the end, it did not blow up, and this in itself was a huge triumph, and Insull had made history. By 1905, Insull had 12,000 kilowatt turbines and 35,000 kilowatt turbines by 1912. These turbines led to the fall of the price of electricity that continued into the 60s.
By increasing the load, he could lower the price and therefore set a cycle in place of increasing consumption and then lowering the price. On or off?
Through these turbines, Insull essentially reached his goal of providing cheap electricity to the population.
The best thing that he did was to finance the combination of the turbine and the steam generator, creating the first turbo generator in 1903. That led to a huge revolution. It meant that power could be generated much greater capacity for a huge system that could power entire cities. So that pretty much was one idea among many, but it led to a lot of other things.
Samuel Insull was also one of the first people to sell stock to his customers. Not only were some of the working class receiving electricity, electrical appliances that made day-to-day life easier were also available to the public. One of Insull's famous campaigns was How Long Should a Wife Live? This campaign promoted electrical appliances used in the home, especially by housewives. In another campaign, he offered trials of free electric irons in exchange for old flat irons. Electricity was gaining popularity. Before Insull came to Chicago, only select large businesses and wealthy households had electricity. But by 1909, Insull had 80,000 customers, over 20 times the amount he had in 1892 when he arrived in Chicago, and electricity was becoming a common household resource. In 1911, he merged 39 gas and electric companies to create the Public Service Company of Northern Illinois, or PSCNI for short. Through PSCNI, his customers paid one-third of what customers in New York, Boston, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and Baltimore paid. Electricity was also benefiting the user's health. Before electricity, gas lights were used in larger cities that, when lit, created a toxic black soot that settled on upholstery and clung to walls. By the time of the stock market crash, Insull was worth about $150 million, and his business was worth about $3 billion, and he was supplying the country with 1/8 of its electricity.